This is from a buddy of mine, Andy, who's from England. Andy's one of these great guys who is doing all this fantastic research on the Alien interview. Actually, and you can go on YouTube, and it's Andrew Burlington, and he's become a good friend of mine. I hope he doesn't mind my mentioning him on the radio, but he's doing a fantastic service because I was one of the people that was in the process, or was one of the people that was involved in bringing out the Alien interview, not the Alien autopsy. I was actually at the bottom of the Alien autopsy as well. And I was involved with Ray Santilli and a guy named Victor Spielberg and what was going on with that. And I backed off from the Alien autopsy because I kept saying that there's things wrong with this. There's disconnects in the story that are not making any sense as far as it goes. So unfortunately, the Alien interview, which I do believe to be real, is something that is amazing, which you can still go online and take a look at. Over the course of the past, 15 years or so, 20 years almost, coming up in, it's about 18 years or so. Just piece after piece after piece has come up to actually verify what's going on with this footage.
Hi Sean, I just wanted to say a big thank you to you for showing an interest in the Alien Interview channel and for mentioning my work on your fantastic show. It really is much appreciated. This video, in my opinion, was overlooked by the general public from the very beginning, and the more people that get to see it the better. I always believed there was more to it than met the eye, and I think I found enough clues over the last 18 months to prove its authenticity. This is by far the longest project I've ever worked on in my life, but I have to say it's been worth every minute. Regarding the radio interview, well, I hope you've enjoyed watching this limited edition version of the Alien Interview analysis. This has been an exciting chapter of my life, and the UFO sightings I've been experiencing have convinced me even more that the video is genuine. This might sound crazy to some people, but in a way, it feels like I've been visited. If someone had told me 18 months ago that all this was going to happen, I would have laughed. I'm running low on disk space, so I'd like to wrap things up by saying thanks again for all the support you've given me these last few months. Best wishes to you and everyone at Revolution Radio. Bye for now.
This goes out to all the skeptics, the narrow-minded people out there who think that everything in mythology is fake. Be still now and listen, or your chance may not come again. Do yourselves a favour and stop mocking the alien interview video. Don't just dismiss it as a silly hoax. I guarantee you will be amazed if you spend time studying the video as I have been doing for the last 18 months. And you wouldn't believe the amount of support I've been getting from well-known experts all over the world. Now sit back and watch the following documentary about why I believe the alien interview video is real. Okay, here it goes. 3, 2, 1.
It is out of Area 51 that the tape we are about to show you was supposedly smuggled.
There are moments when this looks very real.
This is powerful because this is not a staged event. This is real.
video screens up here, television, video monitors, and they're off at an angle. If this was shot using a video camera with lines on it, we would see moire patterns up there, and we don't see the moire patterns. So there's a probability that this was shot originally on film, possibly a film stock like 7252 or 7247, depending on the lighting.
The idea that these images may have originated on film is in direct contradiction to Victor's statement that the interview was shot on video. Another expert who was asked to examine the tape was Michael Hesseman, one of Europe's leading UFO researchers and author of the international bestseller Beyond Roswell.
When I got the first information about the alien interview footage, and when I saw the first picture, I said there might be a connection to a real incident.
Hesseman was intrigued both by the alien's appearance and by Victor's claim that the being arrived at Area 51 in 1989.
If it is authentic, it might be the most significant film ever published, ever shown on television.
For several years now, Hesseman has been investigating reports that the South African Air Force shot down a flying saucer in the Kalahari Desert in 1989. According to Hesseman's sources, 2 survivors were retrieved from the downed saucer. One was sent to Wright-Patterson Air Force Base in Ohio, and the other to Area 51. The extraterrestrial in Victor's tape bears a striking resemblance to descriptions of the Kalahari ET, and the timing of its appearance at Area 51 is consistent with the South African incident.
If you see the drawings we have of the Kalahari alien and the descriptions we have, it seems to be the same being. And the Kalahari incident puts the alien interview footage into a context and gives it at least a probability that it might be real. It might be the real stuff, we just don't know.
UFO crash in the Kalahari Desert in 1989. One of the most documented cases of all time referred to a 60-foot wide spacecraft which was forced down on the border of South Africa. This craft impacted with the desert at high speed, causing a crater 450 feet in diameter and 36 feet deep. Official military documents reveal that the craft entered South African airspace at 1:45 p.m. on the 7th of May 1989 and was intercepted by 2 Mirage jet fighters. Because the craft failed to respond to communication, one of the fighters was ordered to attack the craft with an experimental laser cannon. This caused the craft to lose altitude and crash.
After the craft was retrieved, it was removed to a secret Air Force base, and on arrival at this base, it was found a door had partially opened in the side of the craft. Hydraulic pumping gear was brought to the scene and the door was forced open. When this was done, 2 aliens staggered out of the craft, and it was found that one appeared to be seriously injured. They were immediately arrested and removed to a medical centre, where a medical team was sent in to try to assist. The authorities at the scene entered the UFO, and hieroglyphics were found inside the machine, alien hieroglyphics of course, and various items of electronic equipment were also removed from the craft. The retrieval team from America arrived eventually, and the object plus the aliens were eventually taken by C-5 Galaxy transporters back to Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, where further analysis was taken on.
When the military entered the craft, they quickly removed portable equipment and instruments, some of which were considered useful as potential weapons. This was not certain at the time, but was clarified after scientific investigation. Also found aboard the craft were a series of hieroglyphics, which indicated that the aliens had a written form of communication. The writing gave the impression of an alien alphabet, but it is not known if any of the scientists present were able to understand its meaning. Data found on the craft were stored on a system of silicone slides. It was obvious to everybody at the site that they were dealing with a very advanced technology.
Why should anyone believe this tape is authentic?
Use your own judgment. That's all any of us can do. There's been so much secrecy and disinformation over the last 50 years that it's become impossible to prove anything in the face of official denial. Of course, the flip side is nobody really believes anything the government says.
I've essentially been living in hiding. Essentially, my life from before your documentary ended with that phone interview, and since then I have been living by my wits.
I'm assuming that you've seen the finished product. What did you think of Bob Dean's interview, the retired NATO commander? Well,
he took the video at face value, but that was a case of being correct by accident.
What about Rick Baker? Rick Baker's won Academy Awards.
Rick Baker is a professional makeup artist, a makeup businessman. It's in his best interest to say that he can do much better than the real thing. And that other makeup man, the same goes for him. The
John Criswell.
John Criswell, yes. They both were happy to brag that they could create a more realistic alien. Fine. Well, where is it? In the Men in Black movies? In that ridiculous alien autopsy footage?
Well, I know that the level of classification on this kind of a thing is so far damned above top secret that you can't imagine how sensitive this kind of thing is, and how delicate it is, and how tightly the government sits on anything like this.
a more authentic alien than the one in that interview. By all means, if these makeup people are capable of creating a more realistic alien, then show me, compare it, place it before the public.
I would say, and I know that that's one of the things you ask of me, is that you've got yourself some legitimate footage of one of the little guys being interrogated and filmed. And there's a reality to it, and there's a sensitivity to it that literally breaks my heart.
Donald Rumsfeld has been aware of the alien interviews at least since 1973. His sole interest now is to find a way to be one of those who are taken off when the end comes.
And I think you've got your hands on some pretty sensitive material.
Whether you choose to believe the alien video or not is entirely up to you. But I challenge the skeptics and debunkers out there to prove me wrong. By all means, if anyone thinks they are smart enough to debunk the video, then show me. Set up a YouTube channel and produce a documentary to show how it was faked and share it with the world. Good luck. Now, what you're about to see here is a year's worth of hard work, commitment and dedication. I believe it proves once and for all that Victor's case was and always has been the real deal. Okay, watch and learn. message to the US government. The documentary you have just seen proves you are keeping secrets from your people, along with brainwashing them with lies and deceit, and have been doing so for the best part of 70 years. I believe the time has come to tell the people of the world what you know, because in all honesty, people are starting to wake up to the fact that we're not alone in the universe. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank all the people who have supported me throughout this project. I'm sure I will be back one day with more clues, so watch this space.
Contempt for the viewers of your documentary over the last 11 years knows no bounds. They've been like children, mocking it, or on the other hand, credulously accepting it with no attempt to evaluate the material on its own merits, or to discover any new material to support or debunk it. This is not a joke. This is not a hoax. Certainly I'm staking my reputation on it. If an anonymous individual in a rubber mask could be said to be staking his reputation on anything, I challenge these ufologists to debunk me, discover my identity. If they really believe that the alien interview footage is a hoax, prove it. Show where it was faked. If they believe that the alien in that footage is a puppet, prove it. Find the puppet maker. If they believe that I am a hoaxer, prove it. Discover my real identity.
It is out of Area 51 that the tape we are about to show you was supposedly smuggled.
There are moments when this looks very real.
Well, just when you thought it couldn't get any better, I've come up with a bunch of new clues that are just as important as the evidence I presented to you in my last two documentaries. I hope you're ready, because this is going to shock the hell out of people, especially the non-believers. If the skeptics still doubt the authenticity of the alien interview video after watching this, then the joke is on them. All I can say to the disbelievers is, stick this analysis in your pipe and smoke it. Okay, here we go now. Get a load of this.
If you see the drawings we have of the Kalahari alien and the descriptions we have, it seems to be the same being. And the Kalahari incident puts the alien interview footage into a context.
That video, more so than the alien autopsy, more so than anything else, has not only stood the test of time, but nobody has come out to debunk it. Nobody has come out and said, "Oh, haha, it's a trick. I did it." We asked special effects people in Hollywood how much money would it take to fake something like this, and they were saying anywhere between $250,000 and $350,000, and we were thinking, really, and who has that kind of money to just put up some kind of fake like this? And the more that we learn, and I think it was Baker, I think it was Rick Baker, but he's the one that said, I can do better, and I have done better, and so my challenge to him was, okay, how much? What would it cost for you to do this? And he was the one that said, well, $250,000 to $350,000. And I'm like, really? Okay, so, you got somebody that's, so we come up with that kind of money. You're telling me that you could do this. And you're saying that somebody spent that kind of money to fake something like this and yet take no credit for it whatsoever, release it to the public the way it is. And the way it came about also is that Victor tried to sell it to Fox after the alien autopsy, which he thought was bogus. He contacted Fox, and Fox said, no thanks, we're already in enough trouble. This was Bob Kevy, by the way.
Rumsfeld has been aware of the alien interviews at least since 1973. His sole interest now is to find a way to be one of those who are taken off when the end comes.
I think you've got your hands on some pretty sensitive material.
The iron veil of secrecy is now nearing the end of its 7th decade. When World War II ended, little attention was given to Operation Paperclip, under which hundreds of Nazi scientists were brought to the U.S., given new identities, and then appointed to important jobs in the military and elsewhere. Some of them would have been aware of UFOs, of the ET presence, from their experience in working with them in the 1930s. The American military began to take the subject more seriously after retrieving one of the vehicles that crashed near Roswell, New Mexico, on July 4th, 1947, and decided to back-engineer its technology, which was light years more advanced than anything that we had known. On Tuesday, July the 8th, 1947, at 11 a.m. Mountain Time, Roswell Airfield Commanding Officer Colonel William Blanchard announced in a press release the recovery of a flying disc. That was the truth. Later that same day, at approximately 4:30 p.m. Central Time, Brigadier General Roger Ramey, commander of the 8th Air Force and Blanchard's supervising officer, presented to the press an alternative story. He claimed the Army had recovered a Rowan target device suspended by a neoprene balloon. That was a lie. In fact, it was the cornerstone lie of what was to become a cult of lying and disinformation that is still United States policy today, 68 years later.